I sat alone in my apartment on Christmas Eve, staring at a half-eaten cupcake with a single candle on it, my sad replacement for a holiday dinner. They told me Christmas was cancelled this year. "Everyone's too busy," my mom had said over the phone. "We'll celebrate next week." So I stayed home. I told myself it was fine. But the next morning my phone buzzed. A family group photo. My parents, my siblings, the cousins, all smiling around a glowing Christmas tree. My heart stopped. There it was. The truth. Christmas hadn't been cancelled. It had. When I called my mom, she said only one sentence that shattered me completely. "Sweetheart, you weren't supposed to see that." And that's when I realized. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message. When Mom called that week, her tone was unusually soft. Too polite, too rehearsed. "Sweetheart, we're thinking of skipping Christmas this year," she said. "Everyone's exhausted, and with the weather, it's just better to stay in." I remember sitting on my couch, holding my mug of cocoa, staring at the tiny tree I'd bought for my apartment. A sad little thing from the clearance section. "Oh," I said quietly. "That's okay, I understand." But I didn't understand. My family had never skipped Christmas. Not once. Even during the year Dad lost his job, we still gathered, cooked, laughed, and played cards late into the night. So why now? Mom's voice cracked slightly. "It's just one of those years, Alyssa. We'll make it up to you next week, okay?" She hung up before I could ask more. For the next few days, I tried to convince myself it wasn't personal. Maybe everyone really was tired. Maybe my siblings had other plans. But every time I looked at that bare tree, something in me whispered, they didn't cancel Christmas. They just didn't want you there. On Christmas Eve, I wrapped the scarf I'd knitted for my mother anyway. Red and white, her favorite colors. I placed it by the door in case someone called and said, "Come over after all." No one did. The city outside sparkled with life. Laughter spilling from apartments, children dragging sleds, windows glowing gold with warmth. I sat alone, pretending to enjoy a movie I wasn't watching. Around midnight, I texted the family group chat. "Merry Christmas. Everyone read heart. Showed delivered. Not read." I stayed up late, scrolling through old photos. Last year's Christmas, where Dad held me in a side hug, Mom was laughing, and my brother Alex was stealing cookies from the tray. Back then we looked like a family. Now, the silence felt louder than any carol. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight spilled through the blinds, cutting across the quiet room. My phone buzzed. A message from my cousin Lily. One image. The whole family. Mom, Dad, Alex, even the twins, sitting around a golden-lit Christmas table, smiling, champagne glasses raised. I stared until my hands went cold. The tree behind them was huge, perfectly decorated. Mom wore the same red scarf I'd knitted weeks ago. They'd lied. They'd all lied. I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. Why would they do this? Why pretend to cancel Christmas? And most painfully, what did I do to deserve it? I tried calling Mom, but she didn't answer. Then, 10 minutes later, a text popped up. "Mom. Sweetheart, you weren't supposed to see that. Please don't make a scene." My fingers shook as I typed back. "So it's true. You cancelled it. Just for me." No response. That silence said everything. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that picture. My mother's bright smile, the red scarf around her neck, the reflection of warm light in the wine glasses. They hadn't cancelled Christmas. They'd cancelled me. By morning, I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe Lily had accidentally sent it. But then another message arrived, from my brother Alex. Simple one. "Hey, sorry about yesterday. It was Mom's idea. She thought it'd be easier this way. Easier. Easier to lie to me. To erase me from my own family." Called him immediately. He didn't pick up. So I tried Mom again. Straight to voicemail. By noon, anger began replacing sadness. I needed answers. I grabbed my coat, got in my car, and drove to my parents' house. The one with the blue shutters and white porch I'd grown up in. When I reached the driveway, there was no snow left, just the remnants of tire tracks and footprints. The trash bins overflowed with wrapping paper. And when I looked through the living room window, I saw the aftermath of a perfect Christmas. Crumbs on plates, empty glasses, a half-eaten cake. I felt like a ghost, staring at a life that used to belong to me. Just then, a familiar voice startled me. "Alyssa!" It was Mr. Parker, our neighbor, a kind older man who'd known me since childhood. "Oh, you came by late last night, didn't you?" he said cheerfully. "Your family's party looked wonderful. Your mom said everyone finally made it." Froze. "Everyone?" "Of course," he chuckled. "Your aunts, your cousins, even your grandmother. First time she's come in years." My heart sank. They'd all been there. Every single one of them. Everyone but me. I mumbled a thank you and hurried back to my car before he could see the tears welling up. When I got home, I noticed something odd on my doormat. A crumpled store receipt. It was from Greenwood Market, time-stamped 2 days before Christmas. The handwriting scrawled across it said, "For Alyssa, get something smaller this year." I didn't recognize the handwriting, but the message burned. Smaller this year. As if I were too much even as a gift. I sat there staring at the receipt, feeling something shift inside me. Something between grief and fury. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a decision. And I needed to know why. The next day, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, I ignored it until I saw the notification, tagged in a post by Lily Thompson. I opened it and froze. It was a video. A short, glittery montage of our family Christmas dinner. Laughter, gifts, hugs. Caption. "Family is everything, red heart. Hashtag Christmas together, hashtag blessed." And right in the middle of the clip, my mother holding up a gift box and laughing. I knew she wouldn't come anyway. Everyone laughed. The room spun. I replayed that one line over and over, each time feeling it cut deeper. I knew she wouldn't come anyway. Not she couldn't. Not she wasn't invited. They'd expected me to stay away. I deleted the video, but the damage was done. I spent the rest of the day staring at the window, feeling like I'd been erased from my own story. That evening my phone rang. It was Alex. "Alyssa," he started awkwardly. "Mom's freaking out about the post. Lily wasn't supposed to tag you." "So it's true," I said quietly. "You all had Christmas without me." He sighed. "It wasn't like that. Mom said you always make things awkward and..." Cut him off. Awkward. Because I ask questions. Because I actually talk. Silence. "Look," he muttered. "It wasn't personal. Mom just thought you wouldn't fit in this year. You know. After everything with Dad's will." My stomach tightened. What does that mean? But he hung up. After everything with Dad's will. I hadn't thought about that in months, since Mom told us Dad's savings were complicated, and the estate would take years to settle. Was that why they didn't want me there? I went to the drawer where I kept my father's old letters. At the bottom was a small envelope with my name written in his handwriting. I'd never opened it before. I couldn't bring myself to. That night I finally did. Inside was a single note. "Alyssa, I left something for you in the cedar box behind the fireplace. If you ever feel forgotten, remember, truth has its own timing." My heart raced. The cedar box. At that moment, everything inside me shifted from pain to purpose. If my family wanted to erase me, I was about to remind them who they erased. The next morning, the sky was pale and silent, like the calm before a confession. I drove back to my parents' house, parking 2 blocks away. The place looked empty. No lights, no cars. Just the faint smell of pine from the old Christmas tree still inside. I slipped through the side gate, my breath fogging the cold air. Inside, the living room was exactly how they'd left it. Ribbons on the floor, plates stacked, a faint echo of laughter that still seemed to haunt the walls. I moved to the fireplace. The cedar panel behind it was old but loose, just as Dad's note had described. I pried it open, and there it was. A small cedar box, dusty, sealed with an old brass latch. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was an envelope, To Alyssa, for when the truth hurts more than silence. There were papers inside, legal ones. Dad's will. My eyes darted over the lines. It clearly stated, primary heir, my daughter Alyssa May Turner. Gasp. The property, the savings. Everything was left to me. Not shared, not divided. Just me. No wonder they'd lied. No wonder I was awkward. The floor creaked behind me. Froze. A deep voice said, "You shouldn't have found that." I spun around, and there stood a man I'd never seen before. He was tall in a dark coat, his face half shadowed by the flickering fireplace light. "Who are you?" I demanded. He smiled faintly. "Let's just say your family hired me to make sure certain papers stayed lost." My pulse stopped. He stepped closer. "But since you've already found them, Miss Turner." He pulled something from his coat pocket. Not a weapon but a phone, already recording. "I think it's time the world knows what they did." The man's voice was calm, confident. Too calm for a stranger in my childhood home. "I'm Michael," he said, stepping closer. "Your father's former accountant. He trusted me once." I backed away slightly, still clutching the will. "Trusted you to do what?" "To make sure his wishes were honored," he replied. "But after he died, your family paid me to lose the original copy." I didn't. I just waited for the right moment. His tone was steady, but there was guilt in his eyes. "You helped them lie," I whispered. "I tried to protect you," he said quietly. "Your father made me promise. If they turned against you, I'd give you this." He slid a small flash drive across the table. "Everything's on it. Emails, recordings, the fake documents your brother filed. The truth." My throat tightened. "I don't understand why now." "Because," he said softly, "they're planning to sell this house next week. Once it's gone, so is every trace of your father's legacy." I looked down at the papers trembling in my hands. Primary heir, Alyssa May Turner. Everything they'd taken from me wasn't just money. It was belonging. It was love rewritten by greed. I called Nora, my only friend who never judged me for my messy family. Within an hour, she was at my apartment, laptop open, scanning the files from the flash drive. "Oh my God, Alyssa," she said, eyes wide. "These aren't just edits, these are criminal. They forged your dad's signature on half these transfers." Tears blurred my vision. My own family. Nora squeezed my hand. "You need to expose them." "I can't," I whispered. "They're still my family." She looked at me firm. "No. They stopped being that when they made you a stranger." That night, I drafted an email to the family lawyer, attaching the files. But before sending, I hesitated. Then my phone buzzed. For the first time in weeks, I answered. "Alyssa," she began, voice shaky. "You've been talking to people. Please stop. You're making this worse." "Worse," I repeated, my voice trembling. "You lied about Christmas. You lied about Dad's will. You made me believe I didn't belong." Silence. Finally, she whispered. "You weren't supposed to find out this way." "So it's true." She sighed, tired, defeated. "Your father loved you, but you were his favorite. It wasn't fair to the others. We just fixed the balance." Fixed. She said it like rearranging my inheritance. My father's trust was a household chore. I ended the call without another word. When I pressed send on the email, I didn't shake anymore. I wasn't scared. I was done being silent. When I arrived at the house, my mother, brother, and aunt were already seated around the dining table. The same one from that perfect Christmas photo. Except now the air was heavy. The warmth was gone. Mom's hands trembled as she poured coffee. "You shouldn't have involved outsiders." I sat opposite her, placing the printed will on the table. "You shouldn't have lied." Alex leaned forward. "You think you can just take everything? The house, the money, Dad's name." I met his glare. "I didn't take anything. You all tried to steal it." He laughed bitterly. "You were always Dad's favorite. That's why he wanted to punish the rest of us." Clenched my jaw. He wanted to protect what mattered to him, the truth. Then I looked at my mother. And you let them do it. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't understand the pressure I was under. The debts, the lawyers. I thought if I split it differently, it would keep peace. Peace built on lies doesn't last, I said softly. Alex slammed his fist on the table. You think you're better than us. Fine. Keep the stupid house. But you'll be alone forever. He stormed out, the door rattling behind him. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled back. I would have shared everything with you, I said quietly. All you had to do was tell the truth. Her tears fell. I know. Before leaving, I took one last look at the family dining room, the one where laughter once lived, now poisoned by deceit. I walked out not as the forgotten daughter, but as the rightful heir. 3 days after the confrontation, I was still replaying everything in my head. The lies, the signatures, the way my mother looked at me across that dinner table like I was a stranger. The lawyer had confirmed it. The property was mine. The accounts too. But it didn't feel like victory. Felt like ashes. That morning, the sky was gray, heavy with snow that refused to fall. I was sitting by the window with my coffee when someone knocked. Softly. Hesitant. I opened the door and froze. It was Mom. Her coat was dusted with snow, her eyes swollen from crying, and in her trembling hands was an old yellow envelope. I didn't come to fight, she said quietly. I came to give you something that belongs to you. Her voice cracked on the last word. I stepped aside without saying a word. She walked in slowly, as if she didn't recognize the space. My new home, my clean walls, the absence of her. She sat on the edge of the couch, clutching the envelope like it could burn her fingers. I found this, she whispered. In your father's desk. It's addressed to you. My stomach tightened. I took it, unfolding the fragile paper. The handwriting was unmistakable. Strong, looping, deliberate. Alyssa, if you ever feel forgotten, remember you were the reason I fought so hard. I left the house in your name because you see value where others see burden. This family's peace may crumble, but you will rebuild it with kindness. Take care of your mother. She'll need you more than she knows. Love, Dad. I read it twice, then looked up. Mom's lips were trembling. He made me promise, she whispered. He said if things got bad, I was to protect you. But after he passed, everything changed. The lawyers. The pressure. Panic. Your brother said it wasn't fair that you got everything. I let them convince me. Her voice broke completely. I thought I was fixing things. I thought splitting it would make everyone happy. I sat across from her, the letter shaking in my hands. You didn't fix anything, Mom. You broke us. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I know. I live with that every day. We sat there in silence. The ticking clock filled the room, the same kind of silence I'd lived with all Christmas. But this time it wasn't cold. It was heavy with honesty. I can't forgive you, I said softly. Not yet. But I can hear you. And that's something. She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Alyssa. Just a chance to help you make things right. How? She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I went to the lawyer this morning. I gave a statement, admitting what we did. The forged documents, the bribes. It's all on record now. I stared at her, stunned. You confessed. She nodded. It's over. I can't live with this lie any longer. You deserved better, from all of us. For a long time I couldn't speak. My anger softened just slightly, replaced by something that felt a lot like mourning. Finally I said, you should stay for dinner. Her head snapped up. You don't mean that. I do. It's not forgiveness. It's a start. She smiled weakly through tears. I'd like that. That evening we ate quietly at my tiny kitchen table. It wasn't much, pasta, salad, and old stories we'd both been afraid to touch. And when she left, she hugged me tight, whispering, your father was right. You rebuild with kindness. After she was gone, I sat by the window again, looking out at the snow finally beginning to fall. For the first time, the quiet didn't hurt. It was almost Christmas again. The house, my house, smelled like cinnamon and vanilla, just like when Dad was alive. I'd hung new lights, repainted the walls, and placed the red scarf Mom once wore around the banister as a reminder that forgiveness was a process, not a switch. This Christmas wasn't about perfection. It was about peace. I decorated the tree alone, humming to myself when the doorbell rang. When I opened it, a man in a dark overcoat stood outside, holding his hat. I recognized him instantly. Michael, my father's accountant. "Miss Turner," he said gently. "May I come in?" He looked different this time, calmer, maybe lighter. "I won't stay long," he said, stepping inside. "I wanted to tell you something. Something your father would have wanted you to know." I gestured for him to sit. "Go on." He looked at the tree, at the lights, at the warmth of the room. "Your father's death. It wasn't an accident." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath. "He'd found out about a major fraud within the firm, one that involved more than just your family. He was going to testify. The night he died, he received a call asking him to meet privately to discuss a settlement. He never came back." My hands trembled. "You think he was?" Michael nodded grimly. "Silenced. The investigation was buried, and your mother was paid to keep quiet. She thought she was protecting you." I sat down slowly, the world tilting. It all made sense now. The fear, the money, the sudden change after his death. "Why tell me this now?" "Yes," he sighed. "Because the truth always finds a way. And your father deserves peace." He slid a folder across the table. Inside are his notes, everything he uncovered. It's time someone finishes what he started. Tears filled my eyes. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for that." Michael smiled gently. "You already are. You proved it." When he left, I sat by the fire holding the folder, watching the snow fall outside. Dad's handwriting filled the pages. Lists, names, numbers, truths that had been buried for years. I didn't feel broken anymore. Felt chosen. That night, I whispered to the photograph on the mantel, "I'll finish it, Dad. I promise." The day I handed the folder to the district attorney, it felt like closing a wound. They promised to reopen the case. Within a week, everything exploded. News outlets ran headlines. "Late businessman's daughter exposes hidden corruption network." Reporters camped outside my gate. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Then came the call from Alex. "Alyssa, what the hell did you do?" he shouted. "You're dragging our name through the mud." "I'm clearing Dad's," I said. "Something you should have done years ago." He scoffed. "You think anyone will believe you? You're just bitter." "No," I said calmly. "I'm done being quiet." He hung up. The next evening, Mom showed up again. Tired, anxious, her courage flickering like the Christmas lights outside. "They're furious," she whispered. "Alex says you've ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything," I said gently. Dad's truth just finally came home. She sank into the chair, her voice shaking. "They've been calling me non-stop. I told them I'd stand by you. They called me a traitor." I reached for her hand. "Then welcome to my side." For the first time, she smiled through her tears. That week, investigators questioned everyone involved. Michael testified. My mother too. It turned out Dad's death had been labeled a car accident, but the brakes had been tampered with. Hearing that made my body go cold. The truth was ugly, but it was freeing. When the case finally made the evening news, I didn't cry. I watched silently as my father's name was cleared. The words "fraud charges dismissed" appearing in bold letters. The world finally saw him the way I always had. Honest, good, brave. That night I stood on the porch, the cold air biting my cheeks. The city lights flickered in the distance. Mom stepped out beside me. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," I corrected. The snow started falling again. Soft, slow, forgiving. It was exactly 2 years after the Christmas they lied to me. Now, the same house was alive again. Candles glowing, music playing softly, laughter echoing through the halls. I'd invited Mom, Nora, and even Michael. There were no fancy decorations, no false smiles. Just warmth. When dinner was done, Mom placed a small key in my hand. "I forgot to tell you," she said softly. "The bank called. Your father left a safety deposit box. It's time." The next morning we went together. Inside the small, dim vault, I opened the box. There was only a single envelope in it. "For my daughter, when she's ready." I unfolded the letter with shaking hands. "Alyssa, if you're reading this, it means the truth found its way home. I never cared about money. Only legacy. My legacy isn't the house or the accounts. You. Remember. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the bridge back to peace. I hope one day you'll light this home again with love, not anger. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Dad." Tears spilled freely this time, not from pain but from peace. When we returned home, I lit every candle in the living room. The whole house glowed warm, golden, alive. Mom hugged me tight, whispering, "He'd be proud of you." "I think he already knows," I said, smiling through tears. Later that night, I stepped outside with my cup of cocoa, looking up at the snow swirling under the porch light. The same porch where I once stood forgotten, now shining brighter than ever. I whispered into the cold night, "Merry Christmas, Dad." And for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. Felt home. Sometimes the people who lie to us aren't villains. They're just afraid of truth's light. But lies crumble. Love doesn't. If you've ever been left out, betrayed, or forgotten, remember. You are not the problem. You are the proof that honesty survives everything. Tell me in the comments, what's one truth you wish you'd known sooner? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful cinematic confessions.